Hello, everybody. I have a special guest on today. I met Laura Kate McHugh online, just like a lot of my guests, and we connected and clicked. And I'm going to get her to introduce herself, and then we're going to dive in. Welcome, Laura Kate.
Thank you. Yes, hi, I'm Laura Kate McHugh, the creator of Your Stellar Life. And as a hypnotherapist and RTT therapist, I specialize in helping women love the reflection in their mirror as they age. My mission is to empower women to embrace their bodies and feel confident, energetic, and amazing at any stage of life. I'm so happy to be here, talk about my journey and how hypnotherapy helps through this kind of perimenopause and menopause shift and with weight loss. It's amazing. So happy to be here.
Excellent. Oh my gosh, we have so much to dive into because I honestly don't know. And I mean, I know about hypnotherapy, but I don't really know what we can do. Where do we start? Why would I want to do this? So perhaps walk us through your journey and we can learn some more about it.
Yeah, it's been so helpful for me and the people I work with. And basically, it's working with the subconscious mind. So here we go. We have this conscious desire to drop weight. And sometimes it's resistant, right? And it just won't go because it's serving some other purpose, right? Maybe protecting us or insulating us. And so we have this underlying or a limiting belief, and hypnotherapy gets to those limiting beliefs and lets them go. And sometimes we're not even aware of them, and sometimes we are, or sometimes they're multiple things. So it's like we change the diet, we change the exercise, and then we help with emotions. We help with the underlying limiting beliefs. Also around menopause and aging, we have in our culture a lot of ideas about what that looks like. And so in hypnosis, you get basically into a relaxed state and get kind of where you're just not thinking with your conscious mind. And that's when you can access those ideas about aging and kind of embrace those shifts instead of fighting them. And so it breaks through a lot of that things that maybe, we're putting on weight or we're feeling older or the aches and pains. And it helps kind of get to the root of that and let it go. So you're not fighting against yourself.
Right, because we have conscious thought, but most of us are run on unconscious, subconscious thoughts that do our actions. We think we're in control, but we're not really. We have this old processing system going on, I like to say to people, and it's like we're still living with the 8-track, right? We're running
Exactly.
track and we don't even realize it. So we get self-sabotage, or we get to
Yeah.
a point and we just feel this resistance. And losing weight or living vibrantly is not about restriction and willpower. It's about learning to find the flow. So what you're mentioning here is that we have these old programs running. We don't even
Exactly.
know what they are, right? And
Yeah.
so how do we bring them to the surface? So what kind of happens? I know you have a 10-week program. What kind of happens during this unveiling?
Yeah. So what I was just going to
All
touch on,
Mhm.
yeah, what I was going to touch on too before I move on to that is that 90 to 95% of what we do is run by the subconscious. And
Mhm.
if we had to consciously think about every little thing, just think about someone going through rehab, or if they've had a stroke, they have to relearn all that because we consciously, it takes a lot of energy. And that willpower, like you said, is basically, takes a lot of energy. So the 10-week program, in the first part of it, deals with the emotional part. Where did this weight come from? What purpose is it serving? And so, in the later part, we're going to get into some hacks and tips with food, but it's really about those kind of programs, those limiting beliefs that are running, like you said. I love that 8-track, because it's like old stuff from 0 to 7. So a lot of it's, from the time we're 0 to 7, we're taking in all these ideas about our size. One thing is that sometimes people want to get bigger because they were bullied or their parent was bullied. And so they're trying to get bigger to protect. And so here they go, I want to lose weight, I want to drop weight, but this is serving this deeper purpose. So
Mhm.
it's really fascinating what comes up in those sessions. So a lot of it is group hypnosis, and then they listen to the recordings of those sessions every day throughout the program. So it's kind of rewiring and coding in that new information. making it
building
easy.
new neural networks in there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I know this is why we connected, because I wrote my book, Cookie Dough in the Dark, right? So I was, I used cookies as, well, it's not always cookies, but cookies, cakes, muffins, homemade stuff I made. That was my drug of choice. And I knew better. Well, maybe when I was a teenager, I didn't know better, but that was the habit loop that I started in, these ingrained things, because I didn't have the skills, the emotional resilience. I didn't have this stuff to deal with my parents separating, going to a new school,
Sure.
teenage stuff without any other crap, right? And
Yeah.
so I had to spend a lot of time. I love the book Biology of Beliefs by Dr. Bruce Lipton. Love his book. I had to spend, I never have gone into hypnotherapy, but I had to spend a lot of time going, what am I feeling? And listen, I'm going to tell you something. For the first 10 years, I didn't even know I was supposed to even be asking myself these questions. And then one day I just had a moment where I'm like, food is not fixing it. And I always say food does not fix emotional eating. So it's really great that you start with these emotions. And again, you may or may not know where they come from. You may or may not know how to deal with them. But much of our eating is done outside of hunger, right?
Oh, completely. So many different triggers. And like you said, if you associate in that younger years, you don't have a lot of resources. It's like you can't go on a trip to Europe by yourself because you're having this thing, or you can't, go into this new course, or, invest in something. The only thing you have is the cookie jar to kind of give you that instant gratification. So it makes that wiring, like you said, and then you think, oh, this is my friend, or this helps me. And it's food is not your friend, so we really work on those, shifting that. So it seems like we kind of have the similar kind of goal, and just a little bit different tools in the toolbox, so love that.
Exactly, right? So if you find you are struggling, right? So because I realized when I let go, and instead of trying to get to the end quickly, but I changed my whole mindset into a journey to vibrant living. When I let go of the resistance and allowed myself to try other things, right? And so this might be something that people try, and it unlocks a key to the next door. Right. And I think that's really what it is, because I always say that we're an onion and we're peeling back the layers of the onion. And this may just get you to that next layer of the onion.
Yeah. And a lot of times what I've noticed is it's a lack of feeling connected. People are feeling isolated, and with COVID, they reach for that food for comfort. And, what are you really missing? You're missing that connection. So wouldn't it be better to reach for the phone and call a friend and connect, or journal, or meet new people, and so it's really about addressing that underlying need and want, and exploring, being curious. I think that's one of our greatest gifts.
Yeah. Be curious and compassionate are two words that I added to my dictionary many, many years ago, because I was berating myself, being mean to myself. I was, oh my gosh, just so horrible. Like all these things. What's the matter with me? I'm such an idiot. How did you do that again? You said you weren't going to do it. And then I was just like, oh my God, I can't take it anymore. I beat myself.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. I beat myself up for so long. I'm like, why does everybody else seem to have it easier than myself? And one day I just said, I'm done. I'm done. And
that's so great. We all do it.
Oh,
those internal critics and that voice is like so mean. We would never talk to a friend like that, So you just have to really, like you said, stop it and shift it and really change those words. And you know what? We only have control over our own thoughts. We can't control what happens out there in the world, but we can change our thoughts. And then our thoughts change our world. So it's really playing with that and practicing it, because it's like a new skill that takes a little bit of practice. So that's why the recordings are so powerful, because then you're listening to them before you go to bed, or you're listening to them. Maybe a lot of people do that mindless eating in the afternoon, right? They come home stressed, and it's like they've been great all day. They've had their water, they've eaten healthy foods, and then they get into that like hand to mouth thing where they're just like munching on the potato chips or the cookies or whatever it is. And so I think listening to one of the meditations in the afternoon kind of as a ritual is also really helpful, to just go like, okay, I'm giving myself these positive words and rewiring in a time that's, a trigger for me.
Right. And that's understanding too your triggers, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, there's so many layers to this, which I think many of us are really trying to find that magic pill, right? Like we just have one
Yeah.
thing that we're going to do once. And again,
Yeah. It doesn't exist, right?
when I let go of like trying to find the one thing to eat or the one thing not to
Yeah.
eat or whatever, and I just said,
The supplement that's going to make it all better.
you know what I say to my guests? If I find that one pill, you will be the first to know. But right now, that one pill is consistently doing something, right? That's
Yeah.
taking you closer to your goal. So, and I mean, that can
It's the new habits,
it's
right?
new habits, yes, because
The little baby steps.
yeah. So share your story, share your journey.
Okay, with menopause.
Yeah, with menopause and how this came
Yeah.
into your life.
So I was, it was around 2020 and I was turning, I think, well, COVID. No, it was 2020. I guess it was 21, maybe 22. All of a sudden, this weight was just kind of piling on. And I was like, what is going on? And I had gone through a lot of loss. My mom had passed and broke up a, long-term relationship and just a lot of change. And I was like, is this COVID weight? Is this perimenopause? Like, what is going on? And it just felt like it wasn't budging. And so, went to the whole search, took a different supplements and tried many of the things that, we do the research on, and was exercising pretty much the same. And, ate healthy, I thought. And so I was really going like, is this just age? Is this just what I'm stuck with? And knew so many women growing up that were overweight and, had been my whole life. And so I was like, oh gosh, this is something I've just escaped and now I'm, stuck with it. And then I was doing hypnotherapy and it also just wasn't budging. And I was like, oh, is this the wrong kind of hypnotherapy? And so one of the things I learned for myself with the weight was that our minds don't like to lose. So even saying the word loss is really powerful. So I changed that to dropping the weight or shedding the weight, because it was almost like I'd been through so much loss and I'm like, I need to lose weight. I need to lose weight. And somehow on a subconscious level, it was like, oh, you've lost too much. You can't lose any more at this moment. So it was like holding on to everything. So that was a big shift for me. And also in the perimenopause journey with the hot flashes and feeling older. And I went through a lot of different trial and error. And I think we may talk about it a little bit, but I ended up doing the hormone replacement therapy. And somehow with the hypnosis, something clicked. It's like that onion you're talking about. We got to these different layers with it, and I understood finally like what it was doing. And then a different layer is like, oh, it's also doing that, and I can let that go. So it was a process. It wasn't overnight, and it was really amazingly revealing. And then all of a sudden it was almost like in layers. It would just kind of just drop off. And then I'm like, oh, I'm feeling like myself again. And oh gosh, I can move my body like I want to move it. And so it almost just happened naturally. And so I'm not craving the sweets. I don't, and if I do, then I kind of go, oh, what's the emotion here? Like what's happening? What's off balance? And so it's been a combination of things, but the HRT has been super helpful with the hot flashes and some of the weird symptoms I was having. And then the hypnosis also helped with those symptoms and the weight for sure.
So many powerful things, because I know like our language, we don't think it has so much power, but it really does. And one of my clients too said the same thing about losing weight. She says, I don't want to lose weight because I don't want to find it again. Right. And
I say that all the time. I didn't lose it. I'm not looking for it.
exactly. Right. So it's this shedding, it's this revealing what's beneath us. And something as simple as that, like you said, can tweak something and release something. Right. And this is why I always talk about this journey to vibrant health, this adventure, this excitement, as opposed to this, I got to get the weight off. Right. And so when I stopped talking like that, and I mean, this sounds so simple, but it's really this reframing, because then you start to look at, oh my gosh, okay, what new things can I try? I'm going to be curious. I'm going to be compassionate. You use the word patience. It's a process, right? Dieting is about getting to an end goal. It's about, there's so much restriction and deprivation, and I got to get here, and it's like an emergency and we need it now. And you can just feel the constriction in all those words where, opening up to those words, the other words we just used, the process, the journey, is very expansive.
Open.
Right. And that,
well, and then you have people finish the diet and then they put on the weight because it seems like a temporary thing. And then they can go back to eating terrible foods and, overloading their system with sugar and, oh, well, now I'm not on a diet anymore. I'm at my ideal weight. And then they go back and then it's even worse because their metabolism is all messed up. And,
I know. And I sent out a plea this year to ladies to just let go of that and build your toolbox. And, your 10-week program is a toolbox, right? It's a tool.
It is.
Toolbox, and it will give you skills. And, before we started recording today, I talk about like a very simple program I offer called 30-day added sugar detox. The amount of added sugar in our diets that we are oblivious to, it can make a huge change. And I think what we're both saying is, I love saying this expression, but small hinges open big doors, is stop looking for the big hinges and start looking at the small hinges that open up the door to the next door to the next door.
I love that.
Yeah. And then the other thing, which I love how you said at 3:00, is that time where we start to, we've been kind of that perfect, I'm doing air quotes here, all day, and then it just completely unravels, which is not a good strategy, right? So, I mean, there's a undoing of that. But one thing I've added, and again, I've talked about it in here, is I added foam rolling because my nervous system was shot.
Oh.
3:00, and it wasn't easy when you're craving caffeine and sugar, and I deserve this, I've had a busy day, and every cell of your body is screaming, and you go, I'm going to lay on my roller. It sounds simple, but to make that a habit day after day after day, and it wasn't like a flat road, there was lots of bumps in it. But when I started to lay on my roller and connect to my breath and rewire, I had such a profound change in my life as well. And again,
I love that.
I was talking about that in a diet book, rewiring our nervous system, addressing our subconscious thoughts, changing our beliefs, right? Because
the emotions.
But what should I eat?
Change the behaviors. We need this, this, what do I eat? Or like you said, take a pill or take a shake.
Yeah, I was just reading, it's so unfortunate that there women, I think on antidepressants, I think I was reading about antidepressants, that women are getting to this perimenopausal stage, and there are some basic habits you need to nail down, like your water, your sleep, your stress. Are you lifting weights? Are you moving your body? Are you balancing your menopausal plate? Some really basic skills, but instead of working on those skills, they just take a pill, which just masks symptoms. And I'm not saying, listen, whatever your journey is, you do you, but I know from watching people that that is not fixing anything. In fact, it's making it worse. But you can do your own experiment. But it's really, again, putting the time in, because this is such an integral part of your life around the age of 35 to 55 to really start to work on these habits. And again, doing the hypnotherapy can be just a way of releasing a block. And I love that everything's online now. So no matter where you are, there's no excuses anymore to have this stuff available to you.
Yeah. And Tanya, one of the things that you were mentioning was like, when we focus on the weight, when we focus on the diet, it's like, it can be discouraging, right? It can just be this, like, it almost like makes it worse, right? Because you're just so focused on that. But when you, like the words you're using with vitality and, basically a joyful life. Like, how do we want to go into this next phase? How do we want to age? And I notice with my like group, a lot of it is this fear of aging. Like they don't want to look at themselves in the mirror. And it's like, you're beautiful. We are all, we're a culmination of all of our experiences. And instead of embracing that and enjoying it, we just have that internal voice that beats us up. And we need to change that because it's just super unhealthy.
Yeah. And you know what, this becomes when you look at what you're watching, like magazines, television, social media, and if those things are making you talk negatively to yourself, stop. Right? Because
Change it. Yeah.
comparison is not good, right?
No.
And
I have a blog post that says comparison sucks. It just, it just does. We just need to stay in our lane and take care of these beautiful bodies, these stellar bodies that really give us so much. And yet, all we have to do is, like you said, those really key habits, drink water. I mean, it's not complex things. It's move your body, drink water, sleep, rest, take care of yourself.
yeah.
And yeah, it's I love it. I
Yeah. Well,
love that we get to do what we do.
I know your program is open to everybody, but we're just talking about, menopausal women, which again starts like 35 and upwards, right? So what would
Actually, my program is geared towards the perimenopause and beyond. Yeah, I kind of focus on that group because these are who I'm passionate about helping, just going through this and knowing and just kind of feeling that it is this fear of aging and fear of being rejected, right? That we're not going to be beautiful anymore, that we're not valuable. And it's so sad that our culture has put that emphasis on our bodies in that way, instead of really focusing on the joy of being in these bodies and how they feel and tuning in, like you said, like instead of that caffeine hit, what are some good habits we can do in that time to really get in touch with ourselves? So
yeah, I've been talking about dopamine, and I read Dopamine by Anna Lambert. I actually have the book right in front of me. And oh my gosh, there's just so many things we can talk about here. But we basically, when we're feeling down, right, we want to pick ourselves up, and understanding that most of us go for that dopamine hit of sugar, caffeine, Netflix, drugs, TV.
yeah.
And how can we start to add in trying new recipes, doing different things? Like those all activate, going out in the morning sunlight. Those all activate dopamine levels. They just activate them a little differently than a really strong hit of sugar. But if you're like myself, I basically ruined my dopamine levels because, everybody, or maybe you don't know, but one cookie satisfies you, and then one cookie becomes 5 cookies to get the same hit, and then 5 cookies become 12 cookies. And then before you know it, like I was just talking to somebody last night where she started out eating like 1 cup of chips, right? And then that cup of chips turned into 2 cup of chips, and now she just takes the whole bag and eats it every night. And understanding that this is something that you need to rewire. You need to rewire.
It's an addiction.
It's not about saying I can't have these potato chips anymore. It's about understanding how can you activate your dopamine in different ways and start to rewire and reroute yourself into new habits. And I just hope that the more I talk about this on my podcast, the more women start to realize it's not your fault. Like the system
yeah.
The system is set up for you to eat the whole bag of chips. And then maybe you start eating 2 bags of chips because that's the system.
It is. It's chemicals in your brain and in your body that goes, like you just said, in that addictive response. We are wired for that. And so changing that wiring is not as complex as we think it is, but we just have to be consistent with it and have to believe in ourselves and believe that it's possible. Like, why do some people, are they able to cure themselves of some diseases, right? Because they have that belief. So there is a strong kind of just taking that first step. Don't you find, Tanya, too, that it's having support and having like your friends or your, support system, or even if it's one person that you meet in a group or a membership, or, that it's just so important to have that, like, oh, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
It's not my fault. I'm not alone. And there's hope, right? And we can change it.
Why do you think, so first of all, Joe Dispenza is a great person to read for breaking the habit of being yourself. He's got 3, maybe 4 books, but he really.
Well, that's hypnosis.
Yes.
That is hypnosis. I mean, when you said you hadn't done hypnotherapy, we're all hypnotized during the day. Anytime that we're in that trance, or, like, especially in the morning before we get out of bed, or at night before we fall asleep, it's an excellent time to listen to audios. I have one on my site that you can get for free too. It's a Trim Your Tummy one. And so it really focuses on the metabolism, the hormone shifts, and kind of dropping that belly weight, because I know so many of us in perimenopause find that that kind of stubborn belly weight is right there. So that's at yourstellarlife.com /trim your tummy. And that I just find so helpful. And you can just, as you follow, your programs, have that in the background or fall asleep to it, and just let that help you kind of drop that extra weight.
Perfect. I have written that out and will be in the show notes for everybody. But it's really working, where then you start to unlock and you get to see a different angle. So, what's really interesting is how we are influenced without us even realizing it. So I took a couple of years ago, and it was on, and I was showing my clients this, it was on a gas station, and it said snacks, potato chips, cheesies, butter tarts, I can't remember what else, cigarettes and something. And I just went, these are subliminal messages that you are getting day in and day out, reprogramming you, that you realize, right? And so you think of a snack, and now you start to go, oh, I'll have potato chips instead of apple and peanut butter, or celery and peanut butter, or pistachios and a couple of grapes. Like, it is that subliminal messaging that we don't think we're being influenced by, and it's everywhere. And you really have to stand back and start questioning these things.
Well, our mind responds to pictures.
Yeah.
And so all of those pictures on food, oh, the farm fresh, and this, or, all of these kind of, the marketers know about hypnosis. They know about subliminal messages. I mean, they're giving it to us all the time. They're using words that paint a picture. And so that's when in the hypnosis, we kind of paint better pictures. One of the things that I learned too is that, we are wired to from an evolutionary standpoint, to eat the food we see, because of that variety. We want to make sure, like, if the hunter-gatherers, someone brought in, they got fish, and we're like, oh, I don't feel like fish. Well, it could be months before there's fish again. So we're wired to eat that when we see it, because it could be a long time. Well, now we don't have that kind of problem. We have the opposite problem, where there's an abundance of availability. So if we see it, we'll eat it. So this is a good strategy. Like, if you live with other people and they have snack foods that you're avoiding, keep it out of your sight. Don't put it right there on the counter. Put it in a cupboard that's out of reach. Or, those big family dinners, don't put it all out on the table. Just leave it in the kitchen, serve yourself, and then take your plate. Because when you see it, you want to eat more. And you see it, you want to eat more. So that was one of my strategies that really helped, just get it out of your line of vision.
Mm-hmm. No, very powerful. And again, look, something so simple, but I know that for a fact. It's the same thing, like, you're not hungry and you see a commercial, and then you're triggered. Oh, okay, I'll go get that from the pantry. Or you walk into your pantry and you're not even thinking about X item, and you see it. And I just did an episode called I Ate 14 Cookies, because I went to Puerto Rico, and cookies is like my kryptonite. And right across the road, there was this, literally 40 steps from my front door was this place called Cookie Plug. And I saw it out my window. I saw it out every window. I walked by it 100 times a day. And I was talking to people about the importance of your environment. And that's a trigger, right?
It is.
So when you start to step back and you notice, and then there's the next step. Do I want to let it go? Right?
Yeah.
Because
letting go is key.
right? What is this feeding me? So those cookies, so you have to like peel this layer back. So what were those cookies feeding me way back when? My parents separated. They were covering up the loneliness, the confusion, the frustration, all these things. And so that became a very strong link. And I'm still working at unraveling those thoughts.
Yeah. And you want to be indifferent to it. And one of the key things is like, I'm not that 12-year-old girl anymore. I feed myself with so many other things, with my relationships, with my learning, with my, whatever you're passionate about. It's not the food that's going to give you that. It's not the cookies. And so really just like, I am indifferent to it. Like they don't satisfy me.
And that's a process
And
to get to. It is a process.
it is.
Yeah.
It's a practice, right? And then don't you notice too, when you're like tempted by those things, it's because there's a different trigger. It's not just seeing it. You're like, oh, what is going on here? Okay, I feel like I need to connect, or there's something I'm not saying to my partner that I really need to communicate, so then you just ask that question, okay, if you ask your body, what do you want, body? What does my body want? It's never going to say it wants the cookie, right? It may need water. It may need carrots. It may need a walk, and they may need to be out in nature, but it's never going to go, the body, it's the mind. And so we really need to work with the mind.
Well, that's what I said. Too many of us are feeding mental hunger, not physical hunger. We really have no idea what hunger feels like in our body anymore. We are just overfeeding and we're mentally eating. And one of the things I talk about in my group, again, this is an entirely different podcast, but is if you are not physically hungry, because I think we get programmed. Here's another huge program. We go to school, you eat before school, you eat at break, you eat at lunch. You don't even ask yourself if you're hungry. That's just the time you eat, right? You usually come home from school and then you ate a snack. And we have been so wired into just this eating pattern without saying, like, am I hungry? What does hunger feel like in my body? What if I just don't eat? And sitting with that feeling and feeling maybe some fear come up or some discomfort of, again, you're rewiring yourself out of this program we've been in for so long. And I know a lot of my clients, including myself, we do anticipatory eating. Oh, I'm going to be hungry later, so I better eat now because I'm not going to be able to eat later. Right? And
have you ever just had that? Yeah, and you go, it's just hunger. It's okay. Yeah. It's just hunger. Like it's fine. I'm not going to die. It's just hunger. But, in the past, we did die of hunger. And so we are biologically wired to fear that. But then if you understand that, you go, okay, it's just hunger. Do you recommend people to take portable food? Because that's one of the things that I talk about in my program, is that so you don't get into that overly hungry thing, but having some nuts on hand or olives or kind of things you take with you. Because I don't know if you've had this, but if I get hungry, I will eat anything. It'll be like you stop at the gas station and you're like, oh my God, I've gotten past that, like they talk about it, hangry. But, so to have those kind of, like if we have a dog or when we're with our kids, we have food with us, right? Because we would never leave without having a go bag of stuff for them to eat or snack on, healthy stuff. But we don't think about that for ourselves. So that was one thing that I recommend too, like not like you're saying eating in advance of being hungry, but having healthy stuff with you is super helpful as well.
No, absolutely. I do recommend that. And I also recommend, where you meet people where they are, because I know when I was transitioning from, I needed to eat more often because I really was still working through the feelings, right? So food was the security for me. And then I got over that and my choices kept getting healthier and then smaller. And then I'd be able to sit without eating because I wasn't hungry. So again, like that's a whole process but it is good to have, like I always have get a yo-yo chocolate in my purse or some nuts, because if you get too hungry, it's all bets are off. You are
It is.
eating like a bear on the first day that it comes out of hibernation. You're like, give me everything,
Yeah,
give it to me
it
fast.
is. Yeah. And you overeat, right? Because you're
Yeah,
just, that fear of hunger is biological,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So again, understanding that, and this is where it comes back to a balanced plate. It comes back to, a lot of people ask me about intermittent fasting, and again, a whole other podcast, but you have to see where you're starting from, how your system works, because what I find is a lot of women will be like, oh, I made it till 12 without eating, and then the next 8 hours are just out of control, or the next hour is out of control, and you can't break a fast going into like a panic eating mode. So again, there's a whole unraveling of, it's not just intermittent fasting, it's where are you now, how long do you fast for now, can you add an extra 30 minutes, not an extra 6 hours, right? And then the process that you have to work through. So again, everybody seems, not everybody, but a lot of people seem to just jump the gun. Oh, if I intermittent fast and only eat for 4 hours a day, I'll lose weight. Well,
Yeah.
can you sustain this? Are you listening to your body? And
Yeah.
what kind
Again, we're going back to the quick fix or the pill, the magic bullet. Like, okay, just tell me what to do. I'll do this, and I'll do this for a month and I'll be this size. And it's not what it's about.
Yeah, it's that process. So talk to us, why did you find out? Because I've really been asking people about, like during menopause, our hormones are changing. We cannot control our hormones. They're changing, right? But we can control our basic habits, which positively influence our hormones. But then there might get to a point when we've done all the basic habits. And unfortunately, again, a lot of people go to the pill first without implementing the habits, but to each his own. But I'm going through this process myself right now going, do I need, and this is part of the process, I'm asking questions. I want to pick your brain about this. I've contacted a hormone clinic around here. I've talked to other people, and I'm in the phase of gathering information. Is this a right choice for me or not? How was that process for you?
It was very similar. So I went back and forth, did a lot of research, tried all the kind of the natural ways. And my gynecologist had recommended these pellets that you put in your glutes, and they put testosterone and estrogen throughout. I think it's every 3 months you have to get them replaced. And I was like, well, no, I'll do the cream first, because I was really low in testosterone. And, the low libido, just lack of energy, kind of a little bit of that brain fog. And I was like, okay, so I did the cream kind of not religiously. I would put it on sometimes because I was really resistant to it. Like I didn't want to do the hormone thing. And
Why?
what's that?
Why did you not want to do it?
I had taken the pill as a when I was younger, the birth control pill, and I just felt like it messed up with so many things. So I was fearful of taking hormones. And so then I was, doing different supplements and muscle testing for the different supplements, and wasn't noticing a big shift. Oh, and my hot flashes kind of started and then they went away and then they came back. It was around September, I got frozen shoulder on my right shoulder and couldn't figure out, it's a kind of a weird thing. They couldn't figure out what was the cause. And mainly women between 40 and 60 get it. And I'm like, oh, it's another gift of menopause. And so then I went back and got my hormones tested, and I'm also a massage therapist. I'm kind of, moving out of that practice, but I noticed that a lot of the women that I worked on with chronic joint pain, I would ask them. I started kind of just polling, and this wasn't a very scientific thing, but I started polling them. Do you take hormones? Because one of the symptoms for menopause was joint pain. And they're like, oh no, I don't take hormones. Oh, I never took hormones. And I'm like, is this chronic joint pain and getting hip replacements and knee replacements and shoulder replacements all because of this drop in our hormones and drop in estrogen and everything drying out? And so I went to the doctor and I was asking her about it again. And she was not very helpful, unfortunately, but she's like, well, some people like to go on the hormones just because it makes them feel younger and it helps with their skin. And I was like, you know what? The shoulder pain, the feeling all of like sudden this instant aging skin and just feeling like, having polled my clients and seeing this chronic joint pain, I'm like, if it can prevent that, I'll give it a try. So I've been on it now for about 3 or 4 months. I use the patch with, it's the bioidentical patch with estrogen and progesterone. And that was kind of, a little bit of a struggle to get insurance to cover it. And, it was pretty pricey without the insurance. And anyway, I ended up getting it. A lot of my symptoms of all of the hot flashes that had come back were gone. Not feeling as much joint pain. I have a funny story about switching out mattresses right around the time my hormones kind of started dropping because I thought it was my bed that was so bad. And I'm like, oh, it's just the joint pain because of this drop in hormones. So I've really, I was resistant and I've tried it and I'm enjoying it, or not having those other symptoms has been really nice. So
No, that's very
right now
good.
I do, yeah, I do the testosterone cream more regularly, or I do it, more on schedule and do the patch.
So, it is a process, and I know fear can keep us immobilized, confusion can keep us immobilized. And I'm reading a great book called XX Brain. One of my clients or one of my podcast guests, Carolyn, mentioned it. And so I've been reading that. And, our hormones are not kind to the female body. When they start leaving, like we are 2/3 increased chance in Alzheimer's, our chance of heart disease, cancer, like those are big things, big,
Yeah,
right?
big.
And so
Yeah,
she's going through all the studies and, there's so much misinformation out there. There's
so
so much
much.
lack of knowledge. And this is why I'm in that process. And what I've gathered from some of this, I'm going to talk about this decision flow chart that she has in the book, but is that if you are thinking about this, you want to start when you're perimenopausal, because
Yeah,
the biggest impact is perimenopausal to just after you lose your period. So remember, perimenopause can last like 10 years, then you go 12 months without a period, you get that last day is menopause, and then you go into postmenopause. So if you are thinking about this, it is something where you would start testing your hormones, becoming aware of your symptoms, start to ask questions, talk to people, and you are the CEO of your own health. Like you
yeah,
keep digging until you figure out what works for you, while also, let's not forget about working on those basic habits,
for
right?
sure. Yeah, it's not either or,
No,
it's
it's not
both.
either or, it's a combination. And she really talks about that, Lisa Marconi, I don't know if I said her last name right, but really talks about it is the integration of all of these things. So I'm still really undecided because, I still get my period. I'm 53. It's definitely, some days, some months shorter, some days, some months longer. I have the right joint thing going on in my shoulder. I feel my knees every once in a while, but, I don't I had more hot flashes when I was pregnant. So
Interesting.
yeah, I really have no, I know exactly when I get hot flashes. If I drink too much alcohol and eat too much sugar, I get hot flashes. So I have definitely made that connection between my diet and
Yeah.
hot flashes. And when I spend too much money at Costco, that's another time I get wicked hot flashes.
I think sugar makes my shoulder worse for sure. Sugar is just something we don't need. Your body doesn't need it. That added sugar.
Sugar increases your rate of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, joint. It's so incredibly inflammatory in our bodies. And so, if you can really start to investigate getting this out of your diet, I highly recommend it. And both Laura Kate and I can help you with that. But
Yeah.
I was reading this chart, and I don't even know what chapter it's in or anything because it's on my little e-reader here. But it says, oh, let's see if I can, it's a very small chart. Moderate to severe hot flashes or night sweats. So I don't have any of those. So you go one way.
I did.
Right. And so you go one way and it says yes, and you go one way and it says no. And then it says low sex drive. I do have a low sex drive. So I follow yes. Vaginal dryness and or painful intercourse.
I
No,
didn't have that.
no, I didn't have that. So then I go and it says consider DHEA supplement if no contraindications. So I actually saw a naturopath at the beginning of this year and he put me on DHEA. So I was
It resonates. Uh-huh.
I was consistent for a while and then I forgot to take it on vacation and now I'm back to doing it again. Do I feel any like light switch moment in my life? Not exactly, but I'm gonna keep up with this. But this chart was really interesting to me because it kind of has like, I don't know if it's fear or panic or something, but it really kind of just put me at ease that it's not the right time for me right now. Now, perhaps this changes, right?
Yeah.
And so you can see though, the research that I am putting into this. And
Yeah.
so I think about other women who aren't in the health and fitness. Like I'm so blessed to be in this industry because
Oh, definitely.
right? As same with you, because look at all the things we've learned because we're passionate about it. But if I was in accounting, maybe my time would be spent on tax laws or
Sure.
accounting principles. And so I'm a perimenopausal, menopausal woman. I'm having all these things up and I just go, give me the easiest thing I can do right now. Because I don't
Yeah.
have time to research this. And this is why I think it's important that this should be integrated into your life, is having these, I would even call this self-care, right?
I think it is for sure.
Right? That you are entering in this life right now into a new body. And we're being given this amazing gift to heal ourselves emotionally, physically, mentally. And I have goosebumps just saying this. So how can we find that time? And that is making yourself important, which is what you started talking about, is realizing that you love yourself enough that you're going to give yourself this gift to look after yourself and not put it in the hands of somebody else and just blindly go through these next 30 to 40, 50 years.
Oh, yeah. And you are enough. I'm wearing a shirt that says I am enough because, that feeling of worthiness, it's where you put your energy, and we need to put more energy on ourselves and making those choices and following our intuition and asking those questions. Because, I found, I don't know about you, but my healthcare providers, I don't know if they're just overworked or there's just not enough people or I don't know what, but they just don't have a lot of time, and so that was also just hard. We have to do the work. We have to ask these questions and do the research for ourselves and advocate for ourselves. And I recommend people take a loved one with them, to take notes or to make sure you ask the questions. And because sometimes it's intimidating, you're in the doctor's office and you have questions, and just know that you're worth it and you get to have the care that you deserve. So,
you're also hearing those answers through your beliefs.
Yeah.
Right? So when you have somebody else there, they're hearing something different. So I actually will listen to podcasts, the same episode over and over again. Goes back to what you were saying about hypnosis.
Yeah, that repetition.
You listen to it, you're listening to it as what you believe in that moment. Then you listen to the podcast and now your beliefs shift. And then you listen to it again and now you hear something different. And I find that so powerful. So
it is. Well, and our mind learns by repetition. And so if you're repeating those negative inner critic voices all the time, that's what you're going to keep on, believing. You have to really just use those affirmations, use the mantras, rewire in, listen to the audios, find someone that you like and just listen to them because there is the right fit for you.
Yeah. And I will say, I think you have to have, I don't know if I want to use the word faith, but you and I are talking from our hearts. We are really talking from our hearts. Now, we're not big stars, superstars. We're not getting paid endorsements. We're not even like, we're out there on ground level. And I'm going to advocate for small business here, for people like you and I that have give you, you know, we're going to charge you for our programs, but we're going to give you above and beyond, and we're going to be there for you because we really want to see you change, right?
Yeah.
And we are fighting, I don't know if I want to use that word fighting, but against like we're, you know, it's hard to be seen on social media, just the way the algorithms work. And so it's these grassroots, and this is why I love doing the podcast and interviewing, you know, people like yourself. We're grassroots, we're passionate, we're caring.
I love that. Yeah.
Right?
Passionate for sure.
Yeah,
We just want to help.
Knowledgeable. We're
Yeah.
like, we eat, breathe, sleep this information.
We
But
do. Yeah. And we just want to share it. Yeah. And help people.
Right. And so sometimes we may not be saying what's in mainstream media, right? We may not, you know, you're going to see diet headlines and they're trying to take you one way and we're trying to take you another way, and neither is good or bad. It's just different. But I'm really out for supporting, you know, people like myself, people like you that are really wanting to help people. And not that the other people aren't, it's just there's something different about it. So
well, don't you also feel so encouraged that perimenopause is being talked about so much more, that it's almost like people are, what is that, and curious about it, and that the dietless life or mindful eating, you know, exercise, having kind of selective beautiful choices is what's, there's more awareness around that than there used to be. You know, you don't hear people talking about the diet pills. Like when I grew up, it was like amphetamines that people were taking, and you know, it's so terrible.
yeah.
But I think there is a shift. I think we are becoming more aware of these lifestyle changes, and that it is a change that we need to incorporate, and it's not just a quick fix.
Yeah. And you know, we may sound like a broken record all the time but it's really nailing down like the mindset, the movement, the nutrition, which is, you know, things that I talk about in my membership all the time. It's nailing those basics and not poo-pooing them, right? It's getting to those subconscious beliefs that are running your show, and let's uncover them. It's about discovering our body and the gifts that we have inside of our body. And there's a lot of noise. So I thank everybody for listening to my, you know, my podcast, for putting faith and trust in me, that I have amazing people coming in here, that we care about your health, and we're super passionate about helping you, right? Be the CEO and take control of these years after 40 for magnificence. Like, where do you want to be? I ask my clients, like, when is enough enough? When is enough enough? Like when you've had both hips replaced, both knees replaced, you're on diabetic medication, now you have a cancer diagnosis. Like, when is it enough that you go, you know what? I'm starting to look after myself today. I'm going to drink more water today, because most of us are dehydrated, and we're not going to poo-poo that tiny little action step. We're going to applaud ourselves. You know, I work with clients who have upped their water intake. They feel so much better. So
it's not a very expensive fix, is it? You know, it's like, oh, go and drink more water. Another tip for that too, it's kind of like the seafood. Put it out where you see it.
Yeah.
Put it out there, fill up your water glasses, see it, drink it, you know, remind yourself. And it's about being consistent, right? And that's something for all of us. And I'm not perfect at it. I'm a work in progress. I need to drink more water. And it's like, we say these things also to remind ourselves, you know, that we know it, and we just have to do it. And we can sabotage ourselves and look, that's the hypnosis really helps with. Why are we sabotaging? What is that? Are we not feeling worthy? Are we not feeling, do we feel different? Do we feel like it's not available to us? It's available to everybody else, but not to us. And those are the core things that we get to the bottom of it and let it go. And in that letting go, that can be a little scary, right? Sometimes when these shifts are happening, I'm sure you see it with your clients, that there's resistance, and you go like, oh, but change, you know. And so really, so being supported through that time, and just knowing that, you know, you are worth it, and having the body that you love and deserve is your birthright. You know, you were born feeling worthy. So just getting back to that.
Yeah. And I put a lot of emphasis on health. You know what? You don't appreciate, I appreciate actually every day I wake up, I thank God for my health. I thank God for the health of my children, my husband, my relatives, my friends, my family, my dog. I go through this whole thing because honest to goodness, without your health, life sucks. Like when you are sick, you realize you're like, I will do anything to be healthy, right? And touch wood, I have not had anything major. I hope I never do. But I'm just like, my daily actions are sending me in the direction away from it. Am I perfect? No, but I'm veering in that way. So your health is everything. Focus on your mental.
I like that. It's a new word. It's physical and mental together. Mental.
I'm great at making up new words.
I love it.
And she's a friend of mine. She's like, Tanya, oh my gosh, you and your words and your saying. So I've got to remember that. Mental, your mental and physical well-being, your emotional, your spiritual, like it is time for you to take hold of that. So I have thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Last little tip, words, anything you want to let off your chest, and where can people find you?
Oh, just love your stellar body. We are, like you said, just so lucky to have these bodies and to treat them well and to keep health being our main focus. Joy, laughter. I'm just so happy to be here. It's been wonderful sharing with you. You can find me on yourstellarlife.com. There's a free audio download on there with a guided meditation. It's about 16 minutes long. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know. I'm also on the social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram, on Your Stellar Life or Laura Kate McHugh. So thank you so much. This has been so inspiring, really. You inspire me, Tanya, and I love meeting you and talking with you today.
Great. Thank you so much, Laura Kate, and we'll see everybody in the next episode.